So the first principle that you have to realize is anytime you are dealing with disappointment, you must first take a examination of what's going on in your house, what is going on in your family, what is going on in your business, what is going on in your surroundings that has been tainted, that has been misused, that has not been obedient, that is not going with the vision, that has decided it wants to go rogue, that has gone rebellious, whatever it is, you need to take some time to figure out what that is and kill it. As a business owner, one of the things that you always have to be careful of and you have to be cognizant of, especially if you are a business owner with employees, is what employees are not in line with where you're going. Because at all times you're going to be dealing with attitudes, you're going to be dealing with people who want their way, who are not going to agree with your with the vision, and those type of people, I call them what they are, and they are cancers. And anytime you have a cancer, our human body has a cancer. If we don't deal with it, if we don't cut it out, if we don't eradicate it, it will spread into other parts of our bodies. So when you find out what it is that's not going along with the vision, what part of your business is not operating properly, what employees that you have that are not going along with the vision that you have, with what person in your family is not going, you see what I'm going to, you have to find what it is and you have to get rid of it. You cannot, as a leader, afford to you cannot, as a leader, afford to allow these things to linger, because even though it sounds like or it presents itself as a small thing, that small thing will then turn into a big thing, because rebellion does not ever get satisfied. When a person is rebellious, when something is going against the vision, it will never be satisfied with just the little bit of part that it has already. It will always grow and try to take over. So you have to find out what it is and get rid of it and deal with it right away. I said something today to somebody. I said that we've got to get to the point, especially in the church, where we stop trying to negotiate with demons. That's what we do. Is we try to, oh, it's okay. Oh, it'll be all right. Oh, we'll just love them. Yes, I'm gonna love you, but I'm gonna cast the devil out of you at the same time. And that is something that, as a leader, you must do. You must find out where the rebellion is and get rid of it. That is point number one. Second thing that he tells them is he then tells them that they need to retreat. A retreat in every instance is not an opportunity, or is not something that we like to do. It's not something that we like to do, because we take retreat as backing down or giving in. But sometimes, even as a business owner, sometimes as a leader, sometimes as a husband, sometimes as whatever capacity you serve in, a retreat means that you need to take a step back from the action. You need to survey the scene so you can really find out where you are, where your people are, where your business is, so you can then move and see things more clearly. Oftentimes, when we are in the middle of a battle, when we are in the middle of trying to grow a business, when we are in the middle of trying to raise children, when we are in the middle of trying to move up the corporate ladder, when we are trying to grow a ministry, whatever it is, we cannot see things from certain angles because we are in the middle, or sometimes we are too close. And as leaders, sometimes we have to take a step back, regroup to see really what's going on. We have to find out who really, again, where is who really is for us, what systems are broken. You guys hear me talk about that quite often. What systems are broken and what needs to be repaired. What things do we need to not do any longer? What things do we need to change up? What things are old, and what new things do we need to replace into it? I believe, and the conversation I had with somebody today about this was, I believe that one of the humongous issues that we are having in the church is that we are operating on an old system. And you cannot operate on you cannot do new things with an old system and expect it to be maintained. I had a computer that I tried to download. Some new software on. I didn't try to, let me say that I said this. I did not try to download it because I don't know how to do that. But my computer person tried to download a new system on an old computer, and he told me, he said, he said, I can download this system on this computer, but in 6 months, it's going to break again because this computer is not designed to have this kind of software. He said, so it would be cheaper and it would be better for you over the long run to spend the money on a new computer so you can have, the appropriate system that you need. And oftentimes in our businesses, in our churches, in our families, we are operating on old systems. We are doing what mama did, we're doing what daddy did, thinking that it's going to work in our relationships and not realizing that that is an old system that is not going to work in 2016. So we have to, as leaders, step back and say, how am I going to proceed now? And in doing that, we have to do it by retreating. That's number two. Number three. So number one, we have to get rid of the things that are not following the vision. The number two, I said we've got to retreat. The number three things that we do to deal with a disadvantage we deal with disadvantage is that we have to then get a strategy. So we have now decided and understood that there are some things that are not working, but now we've got to figure out what is the proper strategy for us. So I told you that the children of Israel had already lost the first time they came up against Ai, and they lost, and in losing, they ran from them back to their camp. So after Joshua has the discussion with God, God tells him, here is what I want you to do. He says, now that you have gotten rid of the thing that was tainting you, now that you have retreated and come to me and asked me, I need to tell you that first of all, I am with you. He says that I'm with you, and here is how I want you to attack the children of Ai. I want you this time to lay a trap for them. So send some of your men behind their city, and then he said, and then I want you to attack them from the front. And when you attack them, the men will leave the city and come out after you. He said, and at that point, I want the men who are behind them to attack them from behind. He said, and I want you to burn the city. And I want you, he said, but this time I want you to take the spoils. So now, he says, I want you to take the spoils. He says, so in doing this, he gives them a strategy and tells them how they are to proceed in the future. So Joshua, being obedient, then turns around and says, okay, I'm going to do exactly that. So he sends 5,000 men behind the city of Ai, and what he does is hold on one second, let me deal with you. So what he does is he then turns around. He sends 5,000 men to the back of Ai. Then he, with some of his elders and with his warriors, fight them. And as soon as the men of Ai see him, the Ai turns around and says, now we're going to attack them like we did before. They attack them. In the process of attacking them, they leave the city. Once Joshua's men sees this, they then come into the camp, begin to burn the city down. And when the men of Ai see that the smoke is coming from the city, they turn around and try to fight. Joshua also sees the smoke, and then his men turn around and they begin to kill the men of Ai. So what they have done is they have developed a strategy that confuses their enemy, and then they attacked and executed the thing that they were supposed to do. Oftentimes, one of the reasons that that we're not successful when we are at a disadvantage is because we lack strategy. One of the things that has completely disappointed me throughout this process for justice is that we have yet to come up with a strategy as to how we are really going to defeat this issue. As a country, when this country decides that it wants to take on a problem, it will then come up with a strategy as to how it wants to take that problem on. When we as a country decided that we wanted in 10 years to land on the moon, what we did is we received a direct order from our commander-in-chief. We then placed the necessary resources behind this direct order, and we did everything that we needed to do in order to reach this goal. They executed, and we were able to, within 10 years, land a man on the moon. So you cannot tell me that we don't have the resources, we don't have the brain power, we don't have the necessary things that we need in order to fix racial injustice in this country. We just have not decided that this was an issue big enough for us to come up with a strategy and to execute on. And I'm sorry to tell you that this is not something that the government is going to be able to do. The social injustices that are happening in this country are not going to be fixed until the people decide that this is an issue, and now we want to agree that this is an issue that we need to fix. When enough people decide that we are going to line up together, that we are going to fight together against this one enemy, there is nothing that can stop us. And until that, we will continue to march, to riot, to loot, and to get nowhere. But I can promise you, the moment this country wakes up and says, I am no longer going to be a part of a country or a system that says that somebody, based upon the color of their skin, based upon their socioeconomic background, based upon where they live, based upon how they worship, that I am no longer going to allow that to be the basis on how I treat them. When that happens, that's when this problem is going to stop. And this does not take a generation to fix. This takes the unhardening of hearts and strategy to do so. Period, point blank. We need a strategy. Number 4, after they came up with a strategy and they executed, then the last thing they did was they finished. Very simply, they didn't stop until the job was done. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You and I are in a position right now. We are in a moment in history where we can do something that no one thinks that we can do. We can, by deciding to love one another, by deciding to speak up for one another, by deciding to be obedient to the plan, we can finish this thing. We don't need another person dying. And I don't care, again, I don't care whether you're black, white, blue, orange, gray, brown, purple, or green. Anyone who unjustly is killed, we need to deal with it. Anybody, anytime we have poor people on our streets, we need to deal with it. Anytime we have people who are homeless and don't have food in this country, we need to deal with it. Period. And until we do that, we will never be the country that we have decided to be. So I'm saying this. I propose this. I propose that we execute a strategy that says I am going to speak up and I'm going to help anytime there is an issue in my area. I'm no longer going to negotiate with anyone or with anything that does not serve for the greater good. I refuse to allow my community, my family, myself, or anyone else to be disrespected or to be dishonored. I refuse to be a part of that dishonor and that disrespect by tearing down my fellow brother or my fellow sister. But instead, I am going to lead, I'm going to love, I'm going to listen, and I'm going to encourage every day. And when we can start doing that, we can change. This disadvantage is not one that has to remain. This is one that we choose to have. We choose to have. And we can change it. And just like the children of Israel, this AI, this person that we are battling, is not that big. We just got to decide we want to defeat it. Because God is with us. And anytime there is an opportunity for justice, He blesses it. Anytime we stand for righteousness, He blesses it. Anytime we do something that is for everyone else, He blesses it. And the scripture says plainly, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. We need our land to be healed, and we need your help. That's how you deal with disadvantage. Have a good night.